What's up, everybody? Ryan Thomas here, live on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, bringing you another edition of this great show. And as I have to do this, I gotta do this. I gotta celebrate the California kid's victory, Urijah Faber, here on this Tuesday morning show. We're a few days removed from Urijah Faber's 46-second knockout victory over Ricky Simón. And let me tell you guys one thing and one thing only. This was expected by me at all. As you guys listened to my show a few days ago, around last week, actually talking about this very topic, I did not anticipate Urijah Faber winning by knockout. That did not cross my mind at all. I pictured maybe Urijah winning by decision, maybe Urijah winning by way of submission. I did not anticipate Urijah Faber winning this fight via KO. And that I am still so shocked that this happened. And I have to kind of just take a step back. I had to take a step back, I guess I could say. I'm still taking steps back based on that. This is such a rarity in the sport of MMA that a fighter that could be gone for 3 years, heading into his 40th year as a professional athlete, could come back and knock out a fighter that's 14 years his junior, that's a little bit bigger than him, that's a little bit faster than him, that's a little bit stronger than him, but obviously not as experienced as Urijah Faber. When that fight first started, 46 seconds, okay? 46 seconds was all that fight lasted. You can tell a lot, though, in a fight within 46 seconds. And in that 46-second frame that fight lasted between Urijah Faber and Ricky Simón, I was able to take a lot of things away, a lot of Thomas takeaways from that fight. The action starts. Urijah Faber comes out with his hands low, looking to kind of, get in and out like he always has. But with that front leg forward, always ready for the takedown defense or always ready for his takedown offense to initiate the takedown or to deny Ricky Simón of a takedown. He's got that front leg forward. He's got his weight on his feet, kind of ready to sprawl, but also ready to brawl. And Ricky Simón lands a beautiful punch on Faber, somewhat against the fence as they circle around. Then he lands a nasty leg kick on Urijah Faber. This was one of the cleanest leg kicks I've seen in recent memory, landed from a UFC fighter to his opponent. And you could tell that Urijah Faber was a little bit flabbergasted by the power that Ricky Simón carries. Ricky Simón will be a contender at some point in this division. Ricky Simón should not be, hanging his head at any of this. Due to the fact that, he swapped punches with one of the best to ever do it, albeit he didn't last too long, but he'll be back. And I want to start off the show by saying Ricky Simón will be back. But Urijah Faber, I thought, stayed composed, but was getting hit, was getting touched up a little bit. And Urijah Faber did what he's done since, 2003, however long he's been fighting. When Urijah Faber gets into trouble and he gets some shots, takes some shots, he waits, stays patient, and waits for the other fighter to get a little bit overzealous to where Urijah Faber could initiate the takedown or to where Urijah Faber could throw his favorite punch, the overhand right. And sure enough, Ricky Simón leaned forward as he was trying to throw some strikes, as he was landing a lot of strikes, and leaned right into Urijah Faber's overhand right. Down goes Ricky Simón. He's out on it, kind of out on his feet, kind of rocked, kind of dazed. Urijah Faber is able to kind of get on top of him, land some real short hammer fists, some real short rabbit punches, and the fight is stopped. Now, you say to yourself, wow, that was a thrilling moment. That was a great moment. But as MMA fans are oftentimes known to do, we are accustomed to this type of thinking, that type of thinking being, what is next? What is the next step for Urijah Faber? Where do we go from here? Because that was impressive. No two ways about it. He gets hit early and often. He takes the shots, but he presses forward and catches Ricky Simone. That was impressive. There's no two ways about that. That was an impressive feat for Urijah. That was a great moment in Urijah Faber's career and a great moment in MMA history. Sacramento, California shows up for Urijah Faber. They're strong, 20,000 strong, cheering on their hometown hero, and he does that. That was really special. So now we have to say, what is next? And this is probably the most interesting, appealing question in the sport right now, because you look at this UFC bantamweight division. The champion of the UFC bantamweight division is Henry Cejudo right now. He is also the champion of the UFC flyweight division. The bantamweight division, 135 pounds. The flyweight division, 125 pounds. And you have to wonder what is next as well for the UFC flyweight division. Dana White has hinted at getting rid of the division multiple times. Dana White has hinted that there's not enough fighters in that division to have a division. And Dana White and the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, have released fighters that have competed in that division. So we really don't know what the state is of this flyweight division still. We're really at a loss for words as MMA media, as MMA fans. We don't know. And we have not been given an answer. So I'm going to consider the flyweight division somewhat dead until further notice. Until I'm told otherwise. Me personally, as a fan, as a podcast host, as a sports writer, whatever you want to call me, I'm going to consider that UFC flyweight division dead because they haven't come out and said anything about it. Granted, the division is still in existence right now as it stands. You go to UFC.com, you go to the UFC rankings, you will see that UFC flyweight division still there, but Dana has not talked about it at all. You would assume that he would talk about it a little bit when he's been asked about it. He has been the dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodger of these questions. Rest in peace to Rip Torn, by the way. Patches O'Houlihan. We also have to acknowledge that this bantamweight division has some contenders in it. Aljamain Sterling, Peter Yan. You got some names in that division that deserve an opportunity. Aljamain Sterling, I think, is the next rightful contender. Peter Yan, I like him a lot, but I just don't think he's there quite yet. Aljamain Sterling, as far as being ready, willing, and able, since his knockout loss to Marlon Moraes, he's looked pretty damn good. So I think he should get that opportunity. But we are in a different time. We've been in a different time for the last 4 years. We could go back and forth on the dynamics of these divisions now in comparison to what they were. Back in the day, the best fought the best. The number one contender was the number one contender. Fighters defended their titles. Fighters fought number one contenders time and time again, over and over again. The likes of Anderson Silva, George St. Pierre. John Jones is keeping that alive, staying at the UFC light heavyweight division. But even the MMA media and even the UFC are wondering when John Jones will move up to the heavyweight division. Not necessarily vacate his title, but move up to the heavyweight division and put the UFC light heavyweight title on ice, on hold, and fight maybe Daniel Cormier for the UFC heavyweight title. That's been talked about in terms of the forums and everything like that. Essentially, since John Jones got reinstated, and essentially since Daniel Cormier won the heavyweight title, but John Jones is continuously and respectfully, I think, fighting number one contenders at the UFC light heavyweight division, because if he's not doing that, what's he doing? He's a light heavyweight. He's a light heavyweight champ, 2-time, 3-time light heavyweight champ. That needs to be, thrown out there. He needs to get these contenders in and out of the way and pad his name, pad his legacy as a fighter. Then you have other instances where fighters do not defend their titles. Their belts are forced to be vacated, and you're really scrambling as to find out who the real champ is. With Henry Cejudo, he's not going to do that. Henry Cejudo got a great opportunity, a well-deserved opportunity to fight for the world bantamweight title. He had just knocked out the world bantamweight champion in TJ Dillashaw at flyweight, and TJ Dillashaw pisses hot for EPO. Very serious offense in the eyes of USADA and in the eyes of the fans of the sport. A huge offense of the sport. And he gets 2 years. So TJ Dillashaw is out of the picture. Originally, when Henry Cejudo knocked out TJ Dillashaw, just to give you a brief timeline here, originally when Henry Cejudo knocked out TJ Dillashaw, the UFC thought that Cejudo and Dillashaw would rematch at bantamweight. Being that Dillashaw came down, Henry Cejudo would come up, and it would allow TJ Dillashaw a chance to defend his belt against Cejudo at his rightful weight and also get that rematch. So it was kind of killing 3 birds with 1 stone, not 2, 3 birds. And that fight would have happened. But TJ Dillashaw pisses hot. Henry Cejudo fights technically the rightful number one contender of the division in Marlon Moraes. He wins that fight. Aljamain Sterling wins on that night as well. But Aljamain Sterling, much to the shock of myself in terms of the event card layout, is what I like to call it, how these fights are scheduled, what order in which they're scheduled, who's on the prelim card, who's on the main card. For whatever reason, Aljamain Sterling versus Jimmy Rivera was on the prelim card. I did not get that. I did not understand that. And you had Peter Yan and somebody else, I can't even think of who it was. Or no, it was Aljamain Sterling and Pedro Munoz, who had just knocked out Cody Garbrandt on the prelim card, and Peter Yan and Jimmy Rivera on the main card. Jimmy Rivera just lost to Aljamain Sterling, I'm pretty sure. So that was odd. And that, to me, is what I'd like to call a telltale sign that these fighters in this bantamweight division, Aljamain Sterling, Peter Yan, no one, and when I say no one, I mean the general public, they don't know who they are. They don't know who Jimmy Rivera and Peter Yan and Aljamain Sterling. The general public, me, I do. I know that Jimmy Rivera's got a unanimous decision victory over Urijah Faber. I know that Aljamain Sterling is rightfully so, since his knockout loss to Marlon Moraes, has reinvented himself. I know Peter Yan is a real tough guy, a durable fighter, and can honestly make a case as to why he's eligible for a title shot as well, being that he's only got 1 career loss on his resume. You could sell that to, the general public, but the pay-per-view appeal, the marketability is not there. And Henry Cejudo, rightfully so, is in a position where he's got 2 belts strapped around his shoulders. He has this aura to really call out a particular name and get it, which is just what Henry Cejudo did, understandably so. When you got 2 belts around your shoulders, you're the new sheriff in town. You're the guy that gets to make that call to Dana White and say, this is the guy that I want next. Regardless of who you think is next, this is who I want. And really, Henry Cejudo, in terms of the broad spectrum of the company, he has the opportunity to really ask for whatever fight he wants because he's in really high standing within the company. He's got 2 division titles. He has kept these divisions alive and thriving. Flyweight division, which is thought to be dead, but the flyweight division is still around because of Henry Cejudo. The bantamweight division is being talked about far more than ever, I feel, which says a lot because you've had some great champions in this bantamweight division. You've had Dominic Cruz. You've had Renan Barão during his run there. You've had TJ Dillashaw. And now you got Henry Cejudo. Henry Cejudo might be better than all those guys. Only time will tell on that, but he knocked out TJ Dillashaw already while TJ was on EPO, mind you. He got a decision win versus Demetrius Johnson at flyweight. Dominic Cruz also has a decision win over Demetrius Johnson as well. But Henry Cejudo is very marketable. Far more marketable than those fighters that I've just named. Far more marketable than Dominic Cruz. Far more marketable than Renan Barão. Far more marketable than TJ Dillashaw. People like Henry Cejudo, and they love to hate Henry Cejudo. That's a great dynamic that the UFC really, really wants. They have to have it. They have to have that dynamic within a division if they can, within at least one of the divisions across the entire UFC, and they have that with Henry Cejudo, the king of cringe. So if you're not catching my drift here, as I kind of springboarded within this episode as far as what should happen next, you have an opportunity to create some real intrigue within this division again, to really put some eyes on the division, to somewhat set up these fights with Cejudo and Aljamain Sterling. And the way to do that, if Aljamain Sterling isn't marketable, or not as marketable to the casual audience, if Peter Yan isn't as marketable to the casual audience, Urijah Faber is. And yeah, I get the whole dynamic of he just beat a 15th ranked guy. He's out of the sport for 3 years. He beats a 15th ranked guy and he's going to get a title shot. It is a little ridiculous, but take into account who exactly we are talking about here. We're talking about a fighter that has had a lot of title shots, that has lost them over the span of his career. But he's had those title shots for a reason. He is a massive name in the sport still. He is a draw in the sport. The only reason why Urijah Faber wasn't the main event at Sacramento is due to the fact that he was off those 3 years. If Urijah Faber had kept churning along and trugging along, he would have had a real opportunity to continue to be in main events, continue to win some fights, continue to thrive within his career. And I think he retired because, as he said, he wanted to take some time off to build a family and do those things that not most professional athletes get the opportunity to do while they embark on their careers. But Urijah got that opportunity and wanted to come back. He comes back, he gets that big win, and now he's got 2 straight wins, one over Brad Pickett, the other over Ricky Simone. He's building what's called momentum. Maybe ideally I'd like to see him get another fight, and we could talk about that as well. I can go into that right now for you. I would like to see, ideally, Urijah get another fight before he gets a title shot. And there's a particular guy out there that I'd like to see him fight that I think would be a great opponent for him. Would be a great opponent for this other fighter as well. It would allow him to get back in the mix as well with a win over Urijah Faber, and that is John Dodson. And John Dodson gave Demetrius Johnson some trouble. Won some rounds off of Demetrius Johnson. And that was at 125 pounds. John Dodson's kind of had some slopes within his career, but he's somebody that I think if he fought Urijah Faber, he would fight him at his best, and Faber would fight him at his best, and it would bring out the best in both fighters. It's about putting name A versus name B and seeing who can bring out the best in one another. Who's best that is brought out is better than the other guy, if that makes sense. Who's best is brought out. Who's best is better. And I think that that's what would happen with Faber and John Dodson. That's a fight that I'd like to see, really. That's a fight that I think makes sense. If Urijah does not get the title shot, which I think he easily could. And that's what I'm here to tell you guys. For all the MMA fans out there that think that Urijah Faber shouldn't get a title shot, for all the MMA fans out there that think Urijah Faber shouldn't get a title shot, he just might. And it's not because he is the most deserving of that title shot. It's because he's the most marketable within that division currently. Dominic Cruz is out. Dominic Cruz can't stay healthy. I feel for the guy. I really do. I want him to stay healthy. I want to see him fight. I love watching him fight. His style is impeccable. But he's hurt. He's out. TJ Dillashaw is out in the next 2 years. Cody Garbrandt has 3 straight losses via knockout. Not TKO. Knockout. Those were not TKOs. Some of those were true knockouts where he was knocked out and the ref didn't get in time, and it was a TKO. He's been knocked out unconscious with one punch. Maybe out on his feet, but out. So he's out of the picture. He's got a long ladder to climb to get back to the top. I don't know if he ever will, but I support the guy. He seems like a decent human being, and I hope that he can do it. It'd be cool to see. I like the comeback story, obviously. Urijah Faber is a comeback story. And America loves a comeback. So I think that those dynamics allow Faber to leapfrog the division's quote-unquote rightful contenders. And really, in this day and age of mixed martial arts, what does that exactly mean? What does rightful contender mean? The guy that's won the most fights? The guy that is highest ranked? I think that that's what that means. But you could take these UFC.com rankings and shove them straight up your butt because they don't matter. They haven't mattered in 4 or 5 years. I'd like to think that they do matter in certain instances. They do matter. But in this instance, they will not matter. Henry Cejudo last fought on a super stacked card as the main event. And it was a phenomenal event. Phenomenal card. And I think that if you want to put Henry Cejudo on the top of the bill again, he's got to be up against somebody that everybody knows. The only guy that actually has a winning streak in the division that everybody knows and loves is Urijah Faber. Call me crazy, but that's the truth. That is the truth. Let's dive into these UFC rankings because they did just release them today, I believe, or tomorrow. They'll probably be out. Let's see these new rankings here. So these are the rankings that everybody feels the need to talk about all the time, and I mean, I like the fact they have these rankings, but I don't think, they didn't release the new ones yet. See, Urijah Faber right now, as of now, isn't even ranked. Marlon Moraes just lost. He's still ranked number 1. Aljamain Sterling will probably move up to number 1 with his victories. Rafael Assunção, no one wants to see him fight for a title. Pedro Munoz just lost. Dominic Cruz, as I said, is out. Cody Garbrandt has lost 3 straight. Jimmy Rivera is out. Or Jimmy Rivera is out. Jimmy Rivera lost to Peter Yan. Corey Sandhagen is a young fighter that is on the come up. He's 10-1. He's somebody that, he's ranked 9th. He's a guy that people like. I don't think he's going to get a title shot. Guys, I really, really believe in my heart of hearts that Urijah Faber will be fighting Henry Cejudo in the next couple months. Maybe at Madison Square Garden. I could easily see this happening. The UFC wants to put on the biggest spectacle, the biggest fights that they can possibly put on to make the most pay-per-view dollars. The rightful contenders will get their shot. It's just right now they're not well known enough, and Urijah Faber is well known enough to earn that title shot. His name alone gets him title shots, and whether that's right, wrong, fair, unfair, it is the way it is. Me personally, as far as looking at Cejudo versus Faber, I think that is a fight. It's not a matter of it not being competitive or not. It's not a matter of it being a stupid fight. It's a big fight. Henry Cejudo has the ability to take anybody down. Urijah Faber has some of the best wrestling and MMA that I've ever seen for those weight classes, 145, 135. And Urijah Faber, obviously, still has a punch. So Henry Cejudo, obviously, is tough as nails. He battles through adversity versus Marlon Moraes and gets himself a huge TKO victory. I just feel like the stars are aligning for this fight to happen, and it's a fight worth seeing. It's the biggest fight in Urijah Faber's career outside of the fight that he missed the opportunity on for the UFC title versus TJ Dillashaw. He should have bagged TJ Dillashaw, not begged TJ Dillashaw, but baited TJ Dillashaw into that fight. He didn't do it, and I think that was a winnable fight for Faber. I don't know if this one is as winnable, being that Henry Cejudo did knock out TJ Dillashaw. It was not an early stoppage. It was a clear finish to me. But nonetheless, I really believe in my heart of hearts that Urijah Faber will get a title shot versus Henry Cejudo in the next couple months. And yes, it's because of the fact that he is more well-known than Aljamain Sterling and Peter Yan. That's business, folks. That's capitalism 101. And I look forward to seeing that fight because I know it's going to happen. We will see Urijah Faber fight for a title again. I guarantee it. I'm Ryan Thomas. That was the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Take care.